Say you're building or remodeling a house and you want to make sure that you get the best house you can. Now, best means whatever you think the best is, whether it's super comfortable or super energy efficient, whether it lasts a long time or it's just super quiet because you live next to a busy street. Or maybe it provides you with a really good safety margin when you're in a high area of fire danger, right? Well, think about it this way. When we go to buy cars, and maybe we're not car people and we don't really know that much about cars, what are we going to do? Are we going to go look at the car and we're going to say, oh, it looks like a good car, but you don't really know anything about it? Or if you don't know anything about it, the best idea would be to take it to a shop and ask your mechanic who knows about cars what he thinks about that car. Well, that's a really good idea, especially if you don't know anything about cars. But we really don't do that in construction. So what ends up happening normally is the architects design these houses, and then what happens is they send those plans out to a bunch of builders. Those builders then do this race to the bottom where they bid, and they bid the very smallest price they can, and then they go and they build that house. Now, what are you doing in that context in that you wouldn't do in an automobile context? You're going and you're basically buying a plan. If you're not really well known about or well versed about the complexities of construction, you don't know if it's built well, you don't know if it's engineered well, you don't know if it's costing you more money than it could, you don't know if it's gonna be energy efficient, if it's gonna be quiet or durable, whether it's gonna leak water. Like, you just kind of assume all of these things are taken care of. But then let's look at the experience of the architects. Has any architect out there, or very many of these architects, actually ever built a house? Have they ever actually driven a nail? Most likely not. They're trained in school, and then they go out and they work for another architect, and they're trained in the design aspects of architecture. But a lot of times they don't really have any real world experience, and they're really never going to these houses that have failed and found out why they have failed and then changed their design, right? So you go to these designers, because that's really what an architect is it's a designer. And some of them are fantastic, and some of them are really good technicians of how to build a house well, but they don't know what it's actually like to be on the front line, to be on the assembly line building that car or that house. So what is the role of the builder in this whole process? Is the builder of a new house or a remodel just to rubber stamp whatever the architect says and then to just build that because that's what the architect told us to do and that's what the structural engineer told us to do? Or is it to actually use our sometimes decades and decades of experiences building houses from lots of different architects and lots of different engineers, and to build every project we build the best way possible? Now, if we're brought in at the very end, just before we're supposed to start construction, we have no time to really dive deep into the project and to make recommendations or offer alternatives to the architects or the clients on better ways to do things, because we've seen better ways to do things. Every project we go through, from the best architects to least experienced architects, we've seen the best ways to do things, and we've seen ways that waste a lot of money, a lot of time. They introduce lots of toxic building materials. They do a generally poor job of building a cost-effective house that is comfortable and quiet, durable, protects us from smoke and fire, doesn't cost us a fortune, uses materials very diligently and carefully, is not built like a bomb shelter, but also can't get blown over by the proverbial wolf. We build houses that think about how we're building them better. Now, I used to belong to a builders group, and that builders group was filled with really, really good builders. And we're talking builders, home builders that are building custom houses, and they're building hundreds of millions of dollars of houses a year amongst the whole group. And these are well-educated, not only in school, but in the field, guys and women that have built these amazing houses for decades. But not one of them thought that the job of the builder was to make the project better. Every one of them, except us, thought that the job of the builder was to do exactly what the structural engineer and the interior designer and the architect told them to do, and nothing else. They didn't go into the plans and look at better ways to do things. They didn't offer less toxic building materials. They didn't offer more inexpensive ways of holding up a roof or making sure that a house was not susceptible to earthquakes or snow. They didn't plan on making more durable, more fire resistant houses. They didn't think about the air filtration systems that caused their houses to be much fresher, cleaner, safer places, especially for people with multiple chemical sensitivities or hay fever or allergens or immune responses to anything else. They were building exactly what that architect said. And that's a real problem. I take it as a responsibility to my clients who pay me a lot of money to build the best possible house that I can for them, to build a house that's clean and healthy and safe and durable and long lasting and uses natural materials when we can, that are not going to emit toxic fumes into the houses that are quiet wherever they live, that are comfortable, that have good high performance exteriors, that don't let a lot of cold air in, that are also architecturally beautiful because we're abiding by the architect's designs, but we're doing it in a better, more cost-effective way. That's my responsibility.